Hello guys, welcome to Footer Python tutorials. We are looking at CS202 comparative programming, and in this lecture, in this video, we'll be looking at covering lecture 2. It's not very long, so I believe it's not going to take a lot of time like lecture 1. Let's get directly into the video, right? So, um, so lecture 2 talks about Python input output and command line interaction. So we have Python IO and command line interaction. So we are going to be looking at it. We talked about the Python programming modes. In Python, you have two modes of programming. The interactive mode, where we use the interactive prompts like this. For example, to get into the interactive mode, you will have to type the command. You have to type the command Python on your computer. So like Python, and you get into something like this. You open, like, if you don't know the steps, here are the steps. You type cmd. Once the command prompt is open, you click on it, and from here you can, I just want to align these stuff together. So from here you can now type Python, and there you go, Python open. So there you go, you have Python. Now here is what we call the interactive mode of programming. It said in this mode, it prompts for the next command with the primary prompt, usually 3 greater than signs. So here we have the 3 greater than sign, or the 3 caret right signs. We can call this caret right. Once you see the caret right, you are within the Python interactive mode, and you can leave the Python interactive mode by typing the function exit, which is a Python function to exit the program. It goes back to the normal command line, and to get back in, you can type Python. You can watch the videos install Python. If you don't have Python on your computer, you will also see how to install other IDEs like Visual Studio Code and Eclipse IDE. So if you don't have Python, I advise you to watch the first video on this channel. I will put, I think I'll put it in the description, or it's going to appear at the top right hand side. Just watch the video and learn how to install Python. So now, within the interactive mode, you can carry out any form of calculation. For example, you can use it as a calculator. 30, you can use it 5 divided by 8. You can use it for 2 raised to 3 raised to the 3 raised to the power 2. You can use it to declare variables like this, a times b times b, and you can use it for all sorts of things, even to declare a string. Hello text equals to hello Python. You can see text to the times 2 as hello Python. So what I'm just trying to show you, you can do all kinds of things with the interactive prompt, and I'm going to read from your book. It says, while, and also remember, it said with the primary prompt, usually 3 greater than signs. For continuation lines, it prompts with the secondary prompt by default 3 dots. Well, it's a bit confusing, the English language there. What it's trying to say is, sometimes once you are on a single statement that has multiple lines, for example, the if statement, the while statement, it spans multiple lines because the body of the statement is part of the statement. So in case of stuff like, or when you're defining a class, a function, and all these stuffs, you're going to see 3 dots, which indicate you're still within the body of that statement. You need to press enter twice to leave. For example, if you say a equals to 10, you can say if a is greater than 9, which is true. Once we do this, you see the 3 dots, but you must indent 1, 2, print, good to go. Want to print by. All right, so double, I pressed enter. If I want to add more statements under the if statement, I can. If I want to add statements to the body of the if statement, I can indent, but if not, I need to press enter twice. So yes, a is greater than 9, so we have print good to go, good to go, good to go, bye. So let's read. It said the next method of programming is the code or the normal mode of programming. So in this case, you can also program using Python ideally. That's what you guys have, and it's very good. So for example, here is a code. I'm going to close this. Here is some piece of code on the code on the, I call it the scripting mode, but the book calls it the code or normal mode. Usually it's called the scripting mode of programming by writing a Python script. So it's called the code or normal mode. All right. So it said why the interactive mode is appropriate for short scripting tasks or coding. The code mode provides an environment for writing long and complete programs. Code mode provides highlighting, IntelliSense, and auto-suggestion features, but that's not in all IDEs. For example, if you are writing within the ideally Python, you don't have enough IntelliSense. IntelliSense is the method whereby Python predicts stuff to you. For example, if you type print, you see Python already shows you print here, and it gives you information about print. It knows what you're about to do. It can help you do a little corrections at times. We call that intelligence. It's a form of intelligence, but it's called intelligence. It's the intelligence of the IDE or the integrated development environment you're currently using. It's usually called intelligence. So when we talk about intelligence, it said the code mode provides code highlighting. Intellisense, for example, code highlighting, you can see the color is different. The color of the string here is different. And if you type distance or here, you see code suggestions. They suggest multiple stuff for you, which you may need to select one. So that's what is called code suggestion. Usually an integrated development environment does that for you. A normal text editor wouldn't show you all this. For example, ideally Python comes with Python. It doesn't have, if you start typing print, you can have this. It has this, but if you start typing a variable name, for example, bonus here, let's say we want to add bonus again. So you see, it hardly shows bonus, doesn't show bonus. So the code completion here is very poor from ideally Python. And if you should know, ideally Python comes with Python. To open it, you just go to the command line, type IDLE, appears, you press enter, and it opens. And to enter the text, it's called the code mode. I call it the scripting mode sometimes. To enter the code or normal mode, you type file, new file, and here is your new file. You're ready to type. I explained all this in the video of installing Python, so please, if you have not watched that video, it's very good for you to watch it because I explained a lot of these stuff. I explained how you can set line numbers by going to options and saying hide or hide line numbers. If you want to show, it is going to be showing here show line numbers, and I showed you how to configure the ID and select line numbers automatically from here. General font and type extensions, I think yeah, I don't see it anymore, like should be in general. All right, so here show line numbers in new windows to make sure line numbers are shown. So once you write your code, print hello Python. Once you write a code, you can save it using Control S, and you'll be asked to save a folder is going to appear. Let's save it as the desktop. Let's save it as now.py on the desktop. Once you save your program, you can now run it. Run module. Here is the program. hello Python. So we have executed our first scripting program in this case, and now you can find the file from the desktop. Remember, I saved this file on the desktop, so here is it now.py. To execute this file, you can either right click on it, open with IDLE, which will open it with which will open it here, and you can run it directly, or you can run it from the command line. For example, you press down shift and right click, you open PowerShell or open command line depending on the operating system you're using, and then you type Python followed by the name of the file now.py, and it prints hello Python. So that's a way you can still run the program from your command line. So I just want you to see that clearly. So I'm going to read from the notes. It said, while the interactive mode is appropriate for short scripting tasks or coding, the code mode provides an environment for writing. So like you see, the code mode provides an environment for writing long pieces of code. Like I've said earlier in other videos, when you are programming a big project, certain times you're going to forget a lot and you want to test and try out things. Most of the time, the interactive prompt comes in handy. You can use it to test, for example, list one equals to 7, 8, 4, 1, 5, and that. We can use it to test from methods in list one. For example, list one, we can say, oh, how can we find the length of list one? List one, the length. All right, we can say list one dot sort. All right, print list one. All right, so it's been sorted. So you can use the interactive prompts to check minute pieces or snippets of code, or to try out functions, to try out stuff you don't know whether, or maybe you've forgotten and you want to see exactly how they're being done. You can quickly launch the interactive prompt and execute whatever program you want to execute from there. So the interactive prompt is very useful for trying to testing out things very quickly. So it said, while the interactive mode is appropriate for short scripting or coding, the code mode provides an environment for writing long and complete programs. The code mode provides code highlighting. I told you guys about it. Code highlighting, Intellisense, like some sort of intelligence, for an auto suggestion. So the next we have Python IO command line interaction. The interactive mode can be used as a calculator, like I've shown you, as a tool for testing lines of code, like I told you, or for writing simple system administrative scripts. So you can write certain script. For example, I may want to create a folder on the desktop of the computer. Let's see. Okay. Now I may want to create a folder on the desktop of the computer. I can say import os. Now I can find I can check out the different methods in OS. All right. So OS has the method get current working directory, and set. I want to check if they set current working directory. If they set current working directory, all right. So this is how you can use the command prompt to check out things. Set. I don't see set current working directory. I always see get current working directory. So you can want to use this to create a file. For example, you can say os.get current working directory. It tells us we are in C, Microsoft. We can create a file in let's find the location of the desktop. I want to just show you guys an example. Now let's create a file within here. So let's find the location. Here is the location. We're going to copy it. Now let's run this as admin. We did not run this as admin, so we can't access that. So cmd, You're going to right click and run as administrator. Now we have to start all over. Import OS. Yeah, import OS. Or let's get it Python. Now say import OS. OS dot. Let's now create a file. File. File name equals to. I'm going to paste that file name I copied. C. Or let's put it in desktop. Let's create a file called random.txt. Now let's see. File name equals random.txt. Oh, I made a mistake. I need to use a raw string. We're gonna learn all that later. Raw string. All right. So after doing this, I need to open the file with open file name, file name, write or read. I want to write on it. I want to write to it. With open file name, let's say with open file name as f12. Let me see whether f.write exists by opening another command prompt. Let's see Python with open. Let's see file. Let's see. So let's try out this. If f.write line exists, f.write f.write hello. All right. So let's check now what happened, whether the file was created. So we see a file was created on our desktop called random. We open the file and we see it had the text hello. So you can use the command line to actually write to a file, to create the file and write to it quickly. So that's what is meant by you can actually use the command line for many administrative tasks. For example, I can copy stuff from one location to the other of the computer just using Python from the command line. If I don't want to use Batch or maybe Windows script, shell script or Visual Basic or whatever, I can use Python within the command line to copy files from one place to another or to do some raw tasks. So I just wanted to show what is meant by it's used for some certain command line tasks. So right now, as you can see, um, the code. So let's continue from here. Now, the next thing we want to talk about is the code or normal mode. We have talked about this. I've explained to you. Here is an example of a code. The code mode. We are going to learn about function, but here is an example. Once you have it, I've showed you how to run and how to run it also using the command line by using shift command and shift right click and you run from the command line. I've showed you that. So now let's look at this. The interactive mode can be used as a calculator. Yes, we have seen that. For example, b equals to 10 times 2. Yes, you can use it as a calculator. One thing you need to note is, for example, in the case where you have b equals to 10 times 5, which is 50, you have now x equals to 400 plus b. Now, in Python 2, you can write print b, but most of us know now, most people are on Python 3. In Python 3, you must use the to close your brackets, to close your parameters. You can't just print is more of a function than a statement. In Python, to print is a statement. You just say print, for example, you can say print hello. In Python 2, it's going to work, but it doesn't work in Python 3. In Python 3, you must write print hello. You must use parentheses or you must use brackets. These brackets are necessary. You can, yes, they're like parameters of a function. So print is more like a function. And note, we are on Python 3. When you launch Python, it shows you the version. Here is the version. If we exit, let us exit and run it again so you see clearly. Exit. You will type, for example, if you type Python, it shows us its version before starting. But we can still use Python like this, Python slash version, and it still shows us Python 3.8.10. In this case, look, it was Python 2.7. So you see Python 2.7.1. We are using Python 3.8.10, and Python 3 print statement is a function, so it has brackets. You can't write it like this. You must write it like, for example, this one, which has two brackets before it's going to work. So normally, if you have variables, for example, let's say a equals to 10, comma, num1 equals to 50.6, and text equals to hello. You can print all these variables together by using comma as a separator within the print statement. For example, I can say print a. It automatically puts a space between each of them, num1 and txt. It prints 10, 50, and hello. Now, if you realize, you see, it automatically places a space between each of the items it prints. The comma here, it's not the space. For example, if we write like this, it's not the space we provide that actually causes the space to be printed. As you see, there's still space between 10. This space is due to the comma. Once you write comma, the next one, comma, the next one, it prints it with a given space. Now, if you put strings together to each other, for example, if you print hello world, thanks. You see, if you print pairs of string together without any comma, they actually print without space between them. But if you put a comma between them like this, now they print with a space due to the comma. So I just wanted to show you now. Now we have declared a group of variables a, num1, text. If within the command interpreter we want to see all our variables that have been declared for this session of the, because when you close the command line, all the variables declared are lost in case you're using the command interactive prompt. But with the text mode, it doesn't happen like that. But with this one, if we close here now, all these values we create will be lost. When we start Python again, it's going to start back afresh. Here, that's on the interactive shell. So what do we do? Now let's see an example. To know all the variables we have declared here, we need to just type D. You can see we have declared A, we have declared num1, we have declared text. This A, num1, text. Those are all the variables. These other ones are actually special built-in variable names. As you can see from what we learned in the last section, the double on variable, the double underscore indicates it's a Python specific keyword or identifier. So all these are Python identifiers. We don't need to worry about them. We're only concerned about a, num1, and text. So num1 was declared here, a was declared here, and text was declared there. If we declare a new variable called my sum equals to 20,000, discover if we now type back dir, my sum is going to appear as one of the variables. So you can use a variable has already been declared on that scope. You understand? So you can use dir to declare a variable if you have not been declared or not. For example, we can go through this that list. For dir replaces is a list. You can go through the list and check if a particular string exists. And if the string exists, it means that variable has already been declared within this scope. So we won't declare it again. So I just want to show you that now. Display code output. Like I told you, we normally use the print statement. But the print statement though is a function in Python 3. That's why I always use braces. I mean brackets to or parentheses to surround them, because it's a function. Once you put the parentheses, you now like writing a function that takes an no argument. So now using the print keyword can be used to display program output as shown below. So let's see how this can be. If we have name equals to Wole, and we have age equals to 56. Now we can print name. We can print name, or we can print age. Now, if we want to print both like I showed you above, you can separate them with comma. Print name age. All right. So that's very good. Now you see 56. Now, if you want to add two strings together, for example, if you have a string called txt1 equals to welcome, and you have another string called um, txt2 equals to Python, and you want to combine these strings, normally you can use a plus. It's called string concatenation. We are going to learn that later. We can say message equals to txt1 plus txt2. Now we can print message. Sorry. Welcome to Python. So that's just an example of how we can use print to print multiple statements. And now, what of if we have let's say we have the number of times, let's say tries equals to 20 or equals to 10, and we want to tell the user you have 10 tries left. Normally we are going to say message equals to you have 10 plus tries left. Sorry, it was tries, yes, plus tries. We want it to say you have yes, so something like this. So you have wanted to replace this with 10. If you run it, it has an error. Why? Because we're trying to add a string, and a string you have plus tries. Remember, tries is an integer 10. So we wanted to add the string you have to 10, and Python told us it cannot concatenate. That's the meaning of joining two strings together. It cannot concatenate or append the string you have to the integer tries. Now we can convert an integer to a string format, so that, for example, instead of having 10, we can convert it to 10 like this. And the way we do it is by writing this. Convert that to what the way we do it is by using the string. We are going to learn all this, the str function. Just say str. For example, str is 40. We'll give you 40 within quotes, which means now it's a string like 40. So that's how it is. So in that case now, in the case from above, we can say message equals to you have plus plus, let's say, now we can say str 10, 10 plus. So let's print message. Okay, so you have 10 tries. All right, now I just wanted to show you how to use the str method. Whatever, for example, if we say, let's say we have a string called a number called num2 equals to 50.9. You can say message equals to well done, comma, plus convert it to a string numbers str num2 print print num2. Or as you can see now, print message well done 50.99. So as you see, you can use the str method to convert an into any number from its number representation to a string representation. I just wanted you to see that. So that's what's happening here. Now we have so let's say, let me show you something here. All right, so that's what happens here from your code. We said name equals to whole, age equals to 56. Now name is a string while age is an integer. As you can see, age has no decimal point. Now when we say print name, it prints the value whole because name is just an identifier or variable name to the memory location where the string whole is saved, or the object whole is saved. So when you say print name, it prints the value or the value within the object pointed to by the variable name. And when you say print name age, it prints name and age separated by a space. And like I told you, you don't in Python 3, you'll be written print, for example, name age. Here is how you're going to write it in Python 3, not like this. Okay, now you see it prints name and age. All right, let's try it with a semicolon. Let's try it with a semicolon. For example, let's say we have print, let's say we have name equals to Emmanuel, age equals to 22. Let's say, for example, if we say print name, comma age, this is going to fail. If we say print name, comma age, it prints Emmanuel and age, the age with a space in between. If we say print name, semicolon age, it's an error. I just want to show you guys this doesn't work in Python 3. So it works in Python 2 by separating it prints name and later prints age, but in Python 3 it doesn't work. Now if you want to do that in Python 3, what you need to do is to say print name. The b, you're gonna add plus, you have to put something like a new line. If you don't understand this, you can leave it, but you can use a new line and print str, age. You're trying to convert age to a string, and there you go. So if you want to do this with Python 3, you need to do something like this, all right? Or you can just write print name and later on print age. All right, so I just want to show you guys that. Now you see we have print name plus age. I want you to say you can say print. You're going to learn all this, you say my name is, then plus, since it's a string, you just attach it, concatenate it to the string name. My name is Emmanuel. Now you want to print out something, a string, and concatenate to a variable like 32. For example, if you want to write print my name, my age is plus, you can't just write 32 in this case now. Even though you could write or age, you can't just write age now like this because age is an integer and you can add an integer and a string. So you have to convert age to a string so that instead of being 32, it's going to be 30. It's going to be like this, 32. Instead of being 32 as a number, it's going to be 32 as a string. So to do this, you write str age. So you have like this, my age is 32. All right, so let's move. Now, reading data input from the keyboard. Now, if you want to take user input from the keyboard, you use the raw input in Python 2 or the input Python 3. Now, Python 3 does not support raw inputs. So if you write raw input in Python 3, it's going to fail, okay? You can't use raw input in Python 3. So if you write raw input, now the raw input takes one parameter, which is a string, and the string is the prompt, the message you want to be shown before the cursor is paused, waiting for the user input. What is your matric number? For example, you see here, if you write like this, it's going to fail because Python 3 does not have raw input, it has only input. So what is your matric number? CSC 15, CSC 12, 90, 45, 90, 45. All right, we print it out. Now you can ask questions. All right, score on the exam, print total score, CSC 80. Now we can write this. It's not really good when you use the console. Let's write this from a simple script called scripts. Now.py print hello, welcome. You can see print. Oh, now let's take name equals to, we are going to use input, and we're going to say input, please tell us your name. Please tell us your name. After it gives us his name, we can ask for his matric number. Matric equals to input, please enter your matric number. All right, now we use semicolon here just for presentation. Yes, next we can say score test, and ask input. Now remember, this is supposed to be a float, so we convert the input to a float after we receive it. So we put what is your test score, What is your test score? Remember, you see what we did. Now we just called input normally, but we know everything you type on the keyboard comes as a string. Everything you type on the keyboard comes as a string, but we want to save whatever the user enters as a decimal point number. So once we get it, we convert it to float. Now this line can still be written as this line. This line, if you don't understand this line, we can still write it as, okay, we can start write it like this. We can say um let's say str test score is equals to, we can say, can first receive the score as a string, then later on now we say score test. We now save it as a float by converting whatever the user entered in s as str test score. We can now convert it to a string like this. So you can do this. I just want to show you, you can write this single line, you can write it, divide it into two separate lines. First receive the score, you know it's going to be a string. For example, if the user entered 20.5, you're going to get, you're going to return 20.5, and you know 20.5 is a string. Whatever the user enters on the keyboard appears, comes in as a string. So I want you to note that. So let's wipe this since I've explained. So next we're going to say exam score. Exam score equals to, it also should be a float because it might be a decimal point. If we know it's never going to be a decimal point, we can use integer, but we know this is going to be have a decimal point because a user can have 20.5. What is your exam score? So now, yeah, so it's good, we are good to go. Now we can now do the conversion. Total score, total score. All right, so total score equals to we have, we already converted. You see now in this, in the exercise here, they didn't convert while receiving. So here they're going to have a string in the form of a number in the form of a string, and here they're going to have a number in the form of a string. But before doing the calculation, as you can see, they converted them to int. But I'm using string, I'm using float because the user can have a score 20.5. In this case, that 0.5 is going to be ignored, but I want to consider the 0.5. That's why I converted my own input to float. So I can add them directly now because they're already integers. So they're already floats or numbers. Tests plus exam score. So now let's see. Test plus exam score. Now print um, um, final score for, you can see final score for whatever is your matriculation number, matric, or final score for, let's say, let's put name, and let's put brackets matric, matric. Let's close it with a bracket. Let's say is final score for name is, now we're gonna say is, you can see total score. Let's see total. Let's just copy this from here. All right, so final score. Okay, so yeah, let's see if it's gonna work. Make sure we haven't made a mistake. Let's just check to make sure we haven't made a mistake. Uh, Anyway, if we have made a mistake, it's going to tell us. So let's run our script. Please tell us your name. Please enter your matric number. What is your test score? Um, let's say 19 or let's say 20, 23. What is your exam score? 55. All right, they told us we can add concatenate float and string. So let's find where we made the error. So now the error we made is in total score. Total score is a float like this. We try to add it to the string we were creating. So this line should be str. Should convert this the to a string. Yeah. And now when we run, it's going to be fine. Okay. What's your name? What's your machine number? What's your test score? Test score was 23 and exam score 55. So final score for Emmanuel CSC 12, this thing is 78. So that's just an example of how you can concatenate strings to numbers and print them out. Raw input function takes a single parameter that represents the prompt. So as you can see, the raw input takes a single parameter like this. In this case, it's input. This is a parameter, is a string, it's a prompt. Remember, you can still even write the prompt separately. It must not be inside. For example, you can write prompt equals to tell us your name, and later on you say input prompt. You see, tell us your name. All right, so you can you can save the prompt, you can assign the parameter to a string and then now pass it to the input, or you can use it directly within the input like this. Input tell us your name. So you can just know this input takes a parameter which should be a string, and that string represents the prompt. So that's just what you should know. String values and must be converted to the appropriate types, either int. Yes, you see, in order to functions return primary string, you understand the input. Once you say input and the user types in any input on the keyboard, know it's a string. Whether the user enters a number or whatever, it's converted to the string representation of that number. That's why you saw we must convert total. Whatever the user enters here, what's their test score, you'll be, by default input returns a string. So it's a string. Even the user enter 20, is 20 in the form of a string like this. The computer, like if the user enter 20, it will be like this. If the user enter 20.5, it will be something like this that the computer receives. So you must convert it. If you need it to be an int, you always need to convert it, for example, to an int. If you need it to be a float, you must convert it like this to a float. So I just want to show you, here is what happens if the user enters 20 from here. We take whatever, say 20.5, we take whatever the user entered and convert it to a float, or an int if integer, if we want to deal with integers. So that's just the case. So just know that from here. So let's move. So we have using help. So the help command can help you to know more information about the Python language. For example, we can exit this and wipe out everything. So if you write help, if, oh sorry, I just had a mistake. Like, all right, so let's say help. So it's giving me an error continuously. Well, let's see. So, but help str. it works with help str, but it doesn't work with a language, um, a statement. It tells us now str is the short form for it is string objects. When what the functions, as you can see, these are the functions provided by the string object. We are going to learn all this later, but it's just good to know you can type help to show you help about a particular object. For example, if you want to know what can be done with, let's see, all right. So let's see if we can help to. All right. So as you can see, help to tells us it's an integer. It tells us we can what we can do with an integer. You see, it tells us what we can do with an integer and all this and all this. You may not need this as a beginning as a beginner in programmer or at the beginning of your programming career, but you should know help is very important. For example, you can see the round and many functions. You can see different stuffs you can do with number and many different stuff. You see, these are conjugates to bytes. These are functions you can use for numbers. In fact, it's just a lot of stuffs you won't want to really go through. You can also check what you can do with a float by just writing help 2.5, which is a float, or even help float, and it gives you stuff of float. So if you want to for you should always know it's very long. For example, you can keep going down by pressing enter. If you want to quit, just press cure and it's going to stop. So you can use help to get a lot of information. If you want to know what happens in a list or the different functions or objects, functions or parameters or provided by a list, you can just type help list. So it shows you all the um let's see, it gives us the properties. You see, it gives us the list of properties with an objects, gives us the list of properties and methods, that's functions, and whatever instant variable within that class. So you can keep pressing enter and you see the double underscore indicates a Python variable. It's a Python specific variable or a language specific variable. We're going to learn more of that. So as you can see, it's so long. Yeah, you see the different methods of release, extend, insert, pop, all those stuff. So let's quit this. Now I just wanted to show you that. So all right, so you said if you want to ask for help in a on a particular object directly from the interpreter, you can type help object. For example, executing help string has the same effects as typing a particular string at the help prompt. You see, they say the help has a prompt. You see, it doesn't work in Python. It doesn't work here. Okay, right, like this. Okay, now here is a help prompt. Any statement you type, it's supposed to show you help on that statement. For example, if I type str, it's supposed to show me help on string. If I type um, list, it's supposed to show me help on list. If I type two, if I type two, oh, it doesn't do use help. All right, so you can, let's say int, because two is an int, it's supposed to show me helps on integers. If I say float, it's supposed to show me help on float. Let's see now if I type if, all right, it talks about the if statement. If I type for, it tells me about the for statement. All right, for statements. If I type pass, okay, quit. If I type pass, it tells you about the pass statement. So you see, you can use it to learn about different stuff about programming. If you want to find the def, That's to define a function. You can check it. You see the def is used for defining a function. So even you can check about the class. All right, the class is used to declare a class and all that. So you can even check about the input. I don't know if the input is a statement or a function. Input, input, all right, it tells you about the input function. So even you can check the len function, len. All right, it tells you about the len. So you can use the he said if you ask, you can use the help prompt. Remember, this is a help prompt. You see, for after typing any command, you see help with the greater than sign in front. It means it's asking us for the next help. Okay, so you can use the help prompt to do all that. You can quit by using cure and you go back to the normal Python interactive shell. So I just want you to know that. So help, using help on the command line interface. So you see, for example, if you write h equals to 30 and you ask is h greater than 30, it returns true or false. And what it returns true or false is a boolean. And if you type help is old, it gives you help for a boolean. So you can see here is help for a boolean. Or if you write, let's say, result equals to 10 greater than 20, print result. You see result is false, which is a boolean. You write help result, it's going to tell you, give you help about bowling. So that's just a clean example on what you should know. So lastly, let's look at the dir statement or the dir function. Now say we declare variables 30, b equals to, let's say b equals to welcome, int 1 equals to 52. Let's see, complex 2 equals to 3 plus 4j. Now if you call the dir function like this, it shows you some stuff. That's Python defined variables. You may not need them now. We may look at them later, like the doc and whatever. But later on, you see all the variables we have created. So, like I said, you can use the dir command. Like I said earlier, you can use the dir function to check variables within the scope, defined within the scope. You see, we have a, b, complex, int, result. So it's very useful sometimes if you're doing some complicated programming. You want to do this to find out variables declared within that scope, to know if maybe you should create a variable or not, or one or two things. So I just wanted to know it's possible, and secondly, if you want to find the variables or the properties of a particular object, you need to type dir followed by, let's say, int. For example, you see it gives us the variables or um, properties, or all the different identifiers, maybe functions within the int object. So here are them. You may not understand right now, but you can see it has real, numeric, imaginary, and all this stuff. You can even find that within a float. You can find that within a string, a list like this. And you see list has the pop, remove, reverse. You can even find it within a dictionary. I think dict. Yes, you can find it for any object, you see. So let's say, I don't know if you can try two. Is two not an int? Yeah. So if you say dir2, is going to show you the properties and the methods and whatever within a string, a number, because two is an integer. So it's going to show you um, all these stuffs in the int objects. These are all different properties and identifiers they use for different things, like I told you. And this stuff with double underscore before and in front are Python language specific variables or Python language specific identifiers. It's used within an object for special purposes. The Python language uses this to carry out certain tasks, for example, like we'll see later. So I just want to let you guys see that. So I think in the next tutorials we are going to continue with lecture 3. So have a nice time. Thank you.